Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to Shelf Tour number 26. This is BT Batsford's limited publications Shelf 2. And as I mentioned, BT Batsford, Bradley Thomas Batsford started, I looked it up actually after, it was 1843 that he started. I can't remember when they were taken over, but they went up to the 80s. But to me, the period that I'm dealing with here with these books are anywhere from like the 1930s up to early 70s, more or less, with regards to the styles of jackets. They went through different periods, which I want to learn a lot more of, and have more representatives of the artwork that was done also. And I've been collecting these willy-nilly. There's been no concerted effort to build a specific collection, other than just grabbing any that I see that are good enough shape, and especially if they're in really good shape, then I do snap those up very quickly. There were other publishers, Longmans, that did something similar. Like there was lots of them, but for some reason I've always had a soft spot for Batsfords. So let's go through them. The second shelf here. We've already seen Thomas Burke. This is Streets of London. He did a number of books. And I'm not sure if this is part of they got the British Heritage series on the back flap, but I'm not sure if his fit in to any of series, because he sort of did some on his own, or a number, and they might be separate. But again, these are all things that I look forward to learning about as time goes on. It's one of my projects, one of future projects that I have many that I want to deal with, and Batsford is one of these. This one is, as I say, Streets of London Through the Centuries by Thomas Burke. 4th edition, 1949. It was first published in October 1940. 2nd edition, March 41. 3rd edition, November 43. And he's got a list here of sort of London books by Thomas Burke, which I see again, I haven't made a concerted effort because these are ones I would definitely want. Probably not all Batsford, but Living in Bloomsbury, Nights in Town, The Outer Circle, The London Spy, City of Encounters, London in My Time, English Nightlife, and Travel in England. The last two are definitely Batsford's, because I think I have them. So yeah, let's see what else we have here. The National Trust, record of 50 years achievement. It's again a nice one of these wraparounds that it's got some damage to the top, but I'm not going to fiddle with that too much. Somebody has put an extra brown jacket over it for some reason. And this is the title page. It's record of 50 years with an introduction by G.M. Trevelyan. Contributors are Ivor Brown, Harry Batsford, Graham Clark, John H. Harvey, G.M. Young, James Lees Milne, Basil Oliver, John Summerson, John Russell, D.M. Matheson, and Sir William Beach Thomas. Edited by James Lees Milne. And that is 2nd edition, spring 1946. It was first published summer 1945. It has a bookplate in here and the name of Christopher Fison Stell. Now, I've got a number of books from his library. He was a architectural historian, mostly nonconformist church. Or nonconformist meeting places, and he published a number of books on that. And my local bookseller bought his library, and that is where my Everyman library came from, was his. It's not that good a shape. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was his. But yeah, so I got a lot of books from his library. Moving on, the Regency Style by Donald Pilcher. Again, the jackets on some of these are not perfect, but they're just beautiful. Oh, I guess it would help if I held it up high enough for you to see the wraparound. Regency Style 1800 to 1830 by Donald Pilcher, with 150 illustration from prints, plans, and photographs. Frontispiece is nice. Designed for Prospect Tower by Sir John Soane. Reproduced, was 1800, reproduced by permission of the original in the Soane Museum. And this is first published summer 1947, so that's the first printing. Switzerland. This goes back to that sort of European countries series, which I'm starting to get quite a few of these now, which I'm quite pleased about. This is by John Russell, first published in 1950, and it's dedicated to Harry Batsford. Nice frontispiece. Here's a Brian Cook, and I don't know why I kept saying at the beginning of my last video Brian Clark for some reason, but I know Brian Clark, and that's probably why I was saying it. So, this is The English Country House by Ralph Dutton, with a foreword by Osbert Sitwell. Illustrated from photographs by Will F. Taylor and others, and from drawings. Second edition revised. West Wickham Park, Buckinghamshire, circa 1765 by Robert Adam and others. Detail of painting of Algernon Newton is the frontispiece. Shadows. Can't do anything about it, but there you go. So yeah, it was first published in 1935, so the second edition was 43 to 44. And again, I love the illustrations, some in color, some photographs, and I'll just reiterate again, when they do have photographs of nature or objects, houses, things like that, they're great. Once they have pictures of people, not so good for some reason. Another Brian Cook jacket. It's a bit tarnished on the spine. This is by J.H. Bell, E.F. Bosman, and J. Fairfax Blakeborough. Illustrated from photographs, second edition revised. And there's a color photo of mountains of Glencoe across Loch Leven. First published in 1940. The second edition is revised 1943 to 44. And here's Cambridge. The back is blank. It's a British Cities and Towns series, and I've got a few of these, not all of them. It's got town plan on the end papers, which is quite nice. It's missing a chunk at the top of the spine. John Stegman, revised by Brian Little. And Trinity Hall and King's Old Court from Ackerman's, Cambridge is the frontispiece, and there's a nice title page as well. First published in December 1940. This is the 5th edition, revised 1954. And I've got books about Cambridge. Cambridge and Oxford. There's 3 main cities that are in England here that I'm interested in. London big time. Well, not London big time, but I'm interested in London, pause, big time. Oxford and Cambridge are two other cities, definitely. But I don't have everything. Like this normally would maybe go with my Cambridge books. But you see, if I bought a better condition one with a better jacket, I might move this into the Cambridge. But then I'm accumulating duplicates. Old Churches of London, another example of something that's not in my London collection, which normally would be, or in my churches collection. It's price clipped. The frontispiece is loose. It's coming apart. It's coming out, but that's when I get some acid-free glue at some point, I can fix that. It doesn't look like it's. I think it's just come away, because I don't think it was bound very well. It's by Gerald Cobb, with an introduction by Geoffrey Webb, M.A., late Slade Professor of Fine Art in the University of Cambridge. It's second edition revised. First published spring 42, and then the second edition revised is 42 to 43 winter. And most of these do have foxing. There's foxing on there. There's a lot of times foxing on the edges. They're hard to get in perfect condition. There's James Lee Milne, The Age of Adam. It's a nice wraparound. It's got a bookseller's sticker in here, Charles Wilson bookseller, Liverpool. So I've got a few from that bookseller. So I may or may not, because one, I did buy some books when I was in Liverpool, about a decade ago now. This is published in 1947. It's the first, and that's quite nice. As I say, it's just rough around the edges. When you get that age, we all get rough around the edges. Here's the Oxford volume as compared to the Cambridge one. It does have a plastic covering over it, but it's not a good one. It's not acid free. You can tell by it, and what happens is it'll shrink, or usually shrinks. There's a card in here. It's Oxford. It was as it was and is as it is today by Christopher Hobhouse, revised by Marcus Dick. Modeling Tower from Ackerman's History of the University of Oxford, 1814. First published 1939. Probably had a. Well, it is a Brian Cook illustration. Second edition 41, third 44, fourth 48, and this is the fifth edition revised 1952. There's a card that's in here. It just says, "To Eric, with thanks for producing such an enjoyable treasure hunt, Dorothy Thomas," and it's signed by a whole bunch of people that I guess went on this, and even says, it says Sean, and then two different ways of spelling Sean / taxi driver. So it's a nice little piece of ephemera. Whether it's, well, I'm assuming it goes with the book. Here's one that's a bit rough. It's torn. The jacket is pooched, in other words, pretty well. It's The Heart of Scotland. I may or may not have another copy of this. And it's not Brian Cook. But it's from, there's a book plate in it, Hope Sunday School, Rochdale Bureau. It's presented to Robert Greene as a reward for attendance, special prize 1960. So it's one of these prize ones that's another project that I have, is to look into the ones I have. You can never have a complete sort of a comprehensive collection of prize books, because there must be millions of them. This is George Blake, it's the British Heritage Series. Castle Bay Barra Outer Hebrides, from a drawing by Keith Henderson on the frontispiece. And first published 1934, second edition was 38, and third edition revised 1951. As you can see, they did reprint a lot of these. They were big sellers for them, and they just continued. And even they revised some of them completely right up until the 70s with new editions. Here's 19th century architecture in Britain. It's a bit wider than the others, but it's a nice big one as well. A wraparound. It's quite foxed, as you can see on the inside. It's actually come to the outside of it as well, if you look closely. And this belonged to Christopher Style, also the architecture historian. And again, this was bought at the same bookshop, Charles Wilson's bookseller in Liverpool. Euston Station, London. Doric Gateway by Philip Hardwick, architect, photographed this time rather than a painting. It's by Reginald Turner. It's the author, 19th century architecture in Britain, and it's a first printing 1950. It's hard to see. Oh, the jacket is reproduced from a watercolor of Thorpe Abbots, Norfolk, by E.M. Barry, 1870. Stuart and Georgian Churches outside London, 1603 to 1837, by Marcus Whiffen. Nice jacket. It's all there pretty well as far as I can tell. It's a bit darkened on the spine, but it's not bad. So that's a nice jacket. I'm always more than happy with something like this. Marcus Whiffen. First published winter 47-48, so first edition, and it's part of the British Art and Building series. And the frontispiece is Shobden, Hertfordshire. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. 1753, Rococo Gothic at its most fantastical, from a watercolor by Irene Hawkins. This here is in a lot of the books, and I think they are the Christopher Style. Some of them have a lot. Whoever put these in definitely got book catalogs consistently. And if you had the book, he would cut out the little listing. It doesn't say what bookseller it is, but then it was the listing with the price in. And some of them have many in. Here's English Town Crafts, Norman Weimer. It's ex-Lesbos. Geoffrey Herbert Rackham, 1904 to 1981. Name or something, Oliver Rackham. Oh, something, yeah. Not quite sure. A survey of their development from early times to the present day, English Town Crafts. See, this will be a later one. This is, well, it's 1949. So it's a little different in style. Jacket designed by Irene Hawkins. Well, we saw her on another one. So it's still interest. English Church Monuments, 1510 to 1840. By Catherine A. Easdale. I'm not sure if we saw this on the previous one or not. It's introduction by Sackville Sitwell. And it's Tomb of 7th Earl of Shrewsbury, 1618, by Maximilian Colt. Westminster Abbey, from the drawing by Colt himself in the College of Arms for the frontispiece. And First published autumn 1946, so it's a first printing autumn 1946. Men of Taste, Martin S. Briggs. It is from Men of Taste, from Pharaoh to Ruskin. And Francis First and Marguerite de Navarre, from a painting by R.B. Bonington. This is the frontispiece. Martin S. Briggs. First published 1947. Parish Churches of England. I'm pretty sure we saw this earlier. But this might be a better conditioned jacket. It's got a few tears, but it might be more complete, or the spine's nicer. See, this is what I mean. There's a multitude of these. It's by Charles Cox. Yeah, we did see this. Charles Bradley Ford, edited with the additional chapters, so there might be a later edition. This is originally March 35, and then 7th edition 1954, so that went into a lot of printings. Here's another one of the Towns ones. This is Norwich. By J. Wentworth Day. Norwich Cathedral, West End, photograph, not a painting. And first published 1953. This was quite nice. The English interior. The head and heel spine is a bit rough, but that's a nice one. 1500 to 1900 by Ralph Dutton. Robert Adams' first finest architecture, the anteroom at Sion House, Middlesex, 1762, for frontispiece. And first published 1948, first edition. Prehistoric England, Graham Clark, the great Graham Clark. And this is a Brian Cook jacket as well. Emlyn Bronze Shield, Thames at Battersea. It's found. First published autumn 40, autumn 41, second edition, third edition, winter 44 to 45. Another Brian Cook, The English Garden. And another by Christopher Stell. Ralph Dutton. I'm not sure if we've seen this one already, but we've seen Ralph Dutton. Second edition revised. First published for 37, and then reprinted summer 45. And here's another Thomas Burke, Travel in England. It's got a bit of a chip out of the jacket. And I know it was owned by some... Oh, I thought it was another Style, but no. It's from Travel in England, from Pilgrim to Packhorse to Car and Plane. And it's first published autumn 42. Reprint edition winter 1945 to 46, and then reprinted again in 1949. The Mail Coach Driver, 1832, from a print by Henry Aiken as the frontispiece. Dublin, it's another one of those cities ones. So, clipping with Charles Harvey attempting to make astrology respectable. I'm not sure what that has to do with the book. Maybe it's a relation to John Harvey, the author. It's Dublin, a Stardian environment. And the frontispiece is the Liffey and Four Courts looking towards the sea, from a color print by T.S. Roberts, 1820. And this is, first 1949, but it's weird. They got a second, they got a etching in there as well. It's two more. See if I can get it here in time. Bath, another cities one. I have two of them here. They are sitting side by side. This one is R.A.L. Well, they're both R.A.L. Smith. First published summer 1944. And Bath Abbey in Orange Grove, showing the obelisk erected in a compliment to the Prince of Orange by Mr. Nash, from a plate by J.C. Nates. And yeah, the jacket on that one's a bit better. As you can see, this one's a bit rough. Is it the same printing? This is the 3rd edition revised. So again, that'll probably be something I will keep. Oh, it's got, George's bookshop in Bristol. I love getting bookmarks in the old books. So yeah, it's got the same frontispiece, but it says it's revised of some sort. It's got end papers or map. But yeah, there's ends shelf 2 of Batsford. There's one more shelf to be done tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed that. If there's anything else you want to know, any more details, to sound out in the comments, or anything more specific on any of the books you want.